Eleanor, you need to come right now. It's urgent. The words crackled through the phone, and Eleanor's hand trembled, sending water from her geranium spilling onto the balcony floor. Her heart skipped as she looked at the screen. David. She hadn't heard from her son in over 2 weeks. Where? She asked, trying to steady her voice. The Silver Oak, the Maple Room. Dinner. 6 o'clock sharp, David said, his voice almost clipped. Then the line went dead. Eleanor stood frozen, gripping the phone, as the last drops of water soaked her canvas sneakers. A dinner invitation from Samantha. She could hardly believe it. Since marrying David 5 years ago, Samantha had made it clear Eleanor was an unwelcome presence, and Eleanor had returned the sentiment in full. But David had asked, she couldn't refuse. By 5 o'clock, Eleanor was on the crowded city bus, sweat streaking her blazer, a navy blue one reserved for important occasions. Her hair, once meticulously styled, was damp at the temples. She gripped the railing, reminding herself, for David, a little discomfort is nothing. At 5:50, she arrived at the Silver Oak, smoothing wrinkles from her blazer. The hostess greeted her warmly. Do you have a reservation? For the Maple Room. David. David Hart is my son, Eleanor said, trying to keep her voice calm. The hostess's smile faltered. I'm sorry, ma'am, but the room is fully seated, and I don't see a reservation under your name. Perhaps you could call. Eleanor dialed David, her hands shaking. Samantha answered, her tone sharp. Hello. It's Eleanor. I'm at the Silver Oak. The hostess says, there's no reservation for me. Oh, Mom, Samantha said, dripping with condescension. It's just a small family dinner tonight. No need for you to come. We'll call next time. She hung up. Eleanor's chest tightened. She was standing in the gilded lobby, the sounds of laughter and clinking glasses around her, feeling invisible, humiliated. Just then, David's voice came through on her phone. Mom, where are you? At the Silver Oak, Eleanor replied, voice dry. Come up to the Maple Room. It's urgent, he said. Urgent. Her pulse raced as she turned back inside. Samantha met her at the doorway, blocking it with a painted smile. Go to the front desk and pay for us, she said, thrusting a gold credit card into Eleanor's hands. The pin is my birthday. Wait, didn't you want me here for dinner? Eleanor asked, stunned. Samantha rolled her eyes and shut the door, leaving Eleanor holding the card like it was on fire. At the cashier, the clerk swiped it, frowning. Insufficient funds, ma'am. The bill is $7,420. Eleanor's hands shook violently. $7,000, for what? The clerk showed her the itemized bill, vintage champagne, king crab, Maine lobster. Eleanor felt the ground tilt beneath her. Pulling out her phone, she called David. Mom, is it paid? He slurred, clearly drinking. There isn't enough on the card, she said, voice trembling. David laughed. Use your own money. We'll pay you back later. What's the point of saving if not for family? Eleanor froze. She thought of all the times they had borrowed from her, David's supposed business shortfalls, Samantha's new car fund. And now, this. She felt the debit and credit cards in her pocket, an audacious idea forming. The night wasn't getting any worse. At least she had options. She led herself to the nearest ATM, inserted David's card, and punched in the birthdate he'd given her. 090582, she checked the balance. Her eyes widened, $124,750. Over $100,000 sat there, untouched, while she had been forced to drain her own pension. Scrolling through the transaction history, Eleanor saw weekly large purchases, designer boutiques, jewelry, deposits at a premium birthing center. Samantha pregnant again? She hadn't even told her. Eleanor's chest tightened with a mix of anger and betrayal. For the first time, Eleanor realized she wasn't just a pawn. She had the power, and maybe, just maybe, the right to reclaim it. Eleanor scrolled through the account history, her chest tightening with every entry. Over the past year, more than $80,000 had vanished from her pension, funneled into lavish spending, designer boutiques, jewelry, fancy restaurants, all funded with her hard-earned money. Her knees buckled, she had to steady herself against the ATM as the full extent of the betrayal sank in. All these years, she had scrimped and saved, foregoing new clothes, small pleasures, even a decent meal now and then, while her son and daughter-in-law indulged without a second thought. The final blow hit like a lightning strike. Today, just after David's call, a transfer of $50,000 went to Lakeview Real Estate Development LLC. They weren't struggling financially. They simply refused to use their own money. Eleanor felt a strange, brittle laugh escape her lips, which soon turned to ragged sobs. Passers-by stared, murmuring about the frail woman who laughed and cried at once, but Eleanor didn't care. She had never felt so lucid in her life. From the shadows, she watched as David, Samantha, and her 2 grandchildren emerged from the Silver Oak, laughing. Samantha clutched a brand-new designer handbag, David carried little Michael, and their daughter skipped happily beside them. A perfect family, at least in the eyes of the world. Eleanor felt invisible, the old hag, sidelined by her own son and his wife. The BMW they had bought, using her savings, roared off into the city lights, leaving Eleanor alone. She began the long walk home, 3 hours through quiet streets, her mind a whirlpool of anger, sorrow, and determination. By the time she pushed open her front door, the first light of dawn was spilling into her apartment. Collapsing onto the sofa, she looked at her late husband Robert's portrait. "Robert, did you see that?" she whispered. "After you left, this is what our son has become." In the quiet, she imagined his gentle eyes telling her, "Eleanor, stand up. Live for yourself." Shaking, she pulled an old notebook from the bottom shelf and wrote down the date and everything that had happened. She listed every loan, every extravagant purchase she could remember, every instance she had been exploited. Step 1, uncover the truth about her pension. Step 2, consult a lawyer. Step 3, expose them. Her phone rang. "David. Mom, thanks for last night. By the way, little Michael's birthday is next weekend. Make sure you prepare a generous gift. Samantha's inviting lots of friends." His voice was breezy, as if the $7,000 dinner and decades of exploitation were inconsequential. Eleanor gripped the phone, speaking in a calm voice that didn't match the storm inside. "Of course, David. I'll prepare something special." She hung up and studied her reflection in the mirror, white hair untidy, eyes puffy from crying, but a newfound determination burning within. The game is on. The morning light revealed deep wrinkles and tired skin, but her gaze was sharper than it had been in years. She dressed neatly, gathered her bank cards, ID, and passbook, and left for the bus. Outside, neighbors were waiting. Eleanor nodded politely but did not stop. Mrs. Gable, a longtime friend, grabbed her arm. "Eleanor, I saw David and Samantha yesterday at the Silver Oak. Why weren't you with them?" Her heart twisted, but she forced a faint smile. "Oh, I wasn't feeling well," she murmured. Mrs. Gable patted her hand. "Your David is so successful. Samantha always posts about her designer bags. You must be proud." Eleanor nodded silently, each word stabbing deeper. The world saw glamour, she knew the cost. At the bank, Eleanor felt a wave of cold sweat as she entered the air-conditioned lobby. She took a number and waited, her hands clutching her purse. Finally, it was her turn. "Hello, how may I help you?" asked a cheerful young woman, Maya Patel. Eleanor handed over her ID and passbook. I'd like a detailed statement of my pension for the past 3 years, she said, her voice steady despite the storm inside. Maya typed quickly, her brow furrowing. Mrs. Vance, this is unusual. Almost every month, right after your pension is deposited, nearly the full amount is withdrawn on the same day. Sometimes at the ATM, sometimes at the counter. And in the last 6 months, 3 large loans were taken out against your account. Eleanor felt the air leave her lungs. Loans? I've never authorized loans. Maya leaned closer. Are you certain you didn't sign anything? Of course not. Eleanor's hands shook. I withdraw $300 a month for living expenses. That's all. I never took loans. Maya's expression hardened. This is serious. You should speak with our branch manager. Minutes later, Mr. Jonathan Hayes, the branch manager, greeted her and ushered her into a small office. He produced a stack of photocopies. These withdrawal and loan forms bear your signature. Can you verify them? Eleanor skimmed the pages. The handwriting, sloppy, uneven, distinctly familiar, it was David's. The chicken scratch writing she had teased him about as a child. Her hands gripped the edge of the desk. This is a forgery, she said through gritted teeth. Mr. Hayes and Maya exchanged a solemn glance. In that case, this is financial fraud. The amounts involved are substantial. You need to file a police report. Eleanor's mind raced. Report her own son. She swallowed, trying to steady herself. How much money are we talking about? Over 3 years, $48,600 has been withdrawn from your pension, plus 3 loans totaling $60,000. Currently, $45,000 is still outstanding, he explained. Eleanor's ears rang. $18,600, she had never held that much money at once, and now her own son had siphoned it piece by piece. Mrs. Vance, are you all right? Maya asked, concern in her voice. Eleanor nodded, forcing herself upright. I need time to think. Mr. Hayes handed her the printed statement. Keep this for police or legal proceedings. Our bank will cooperate fully. Outside, the sun blazed, but Eleanor felt a chill deep in her bones. She walked aimlessly to a park bench downtown and unfolded the statement. Each date was a dagger: $3,000 withdrawn on her birthday, $2,000 taken on the anniversary of Robert's death to buy a handbag, $5,000 the day before Christmas for the Regal Birthing Center. Every withdrawal corresponded with an extravagant purchase: Tiffany, Hermes, luxury spas. Her life savings had funded their life of luxury. But now, Eleanor knew the truth, and she would act. The luxury items Samantha flaunted on social media were all purchased with my money. My phone vibrated sharply, and I braced myself. David. Mom, why haven't you answered? Little Michael has a fever. The hospital wants a $500 deposit, and Samantha and I, well, we're a bit short. Can you help? Before, I would have rushed blindly to the bank, worried sick about my grandson, trembling as I handed over my hard-earned savings. Before, I would have been a fool. David, I said, my voice steady, even calm. I just came from the bank. Silence. Then, anxious, sharp, the bank. What were you doing there? Checking my pension account, I said slowly, deliberately. $48,600 withdrawn, plus $60,000 in loans. All taken in my name. When were you planning on telling me? Mom, listen, I can explain, his voice rose, nearly shrill. I'll pay you back. I laughed bitterly, a sound that turned to scorn. Right now, your little boy is sick. And the woman who used my savings to stay in a luxury birthing center can't even cover a $500 hospital deposit. Drop the act, David. I hung up, shutting off the phone. The ginkgo trees near my apartment rustled as if sighing with me. Back inside, I spread out all my financial documents, bank statements, credit card records, bills. Each page chilled me more. David hadn't just drained my pension, he had secretly linked expenses to my health insurance, opened multiple credit accounts, and forged my signature. He was like a termite, eating away at a life I had built. Evening fell. A sharp pounding at the door startled me. Through the peephole, I saw David, his face dark, shouting. "Mom! Open up!" I remained silent, retreating to the living room. A few moments later, my phone lit up with a message from Samantha. "Old hag, how dare you hang up on my husband? Should we ship you off to a nursing home?" A cold laugh escaped me. "Threaten me? Play your games," I thought. "Fine." I typed back, "Mom is old and useless now. Don't worry. I'll get the money for Michael's bills tomorrow." Instantly, David called again. "Mom, ignore Samantha. Michael's fever's down. Don't worry about it." His voice was light, almost sweet, that fake charm he always wore. I let my voice tremble deliberately. "David. I've thought about it. Since you've used the money, keep it. You're my son. Eventually, it will all be yours. Just, the loans. No worries, Mom. I know people at the bank. It's all handled. Hey, why don't you give me the deed to the house for safekeeping?" There it was. His goal all along, my home, the culmination of a lifetime of work with Robert. I'll have to look for it," I stammered, feigning confusion. "Mom! How can you be so careless with something so important?" His voice grew anxious. "I'll come over tomorrow to help." I didn't wait. I dialed my old colleague, Sarah Davis. "Sarah, I need your daughter, Clara. Legal advice. It's a family property issue." "Oh. Eleanor. Is it about David?" Sarah's voice softened. "Yes. Everyone knew except me," I said, bitterness dripping from every word. "Sarah promised to connect me with Clara first thing in the morning. Take care of yourself, Eleanor. Some children aren't worth it." Her words echoed in my mind as night deepened. I compiled a detailed list: misappropriated funds, forged documents, threatening messages. These would be my weapons. Tomorrow, the fight would begin. A sliver of new moon hung cold in the sky. Robert's photo seemed to watch me, as if whispering, "Well done, Eleanor." The next morning, Clara Hayes's office loomed at the top of an old loop building. The elevator was ancient, 5 flights of stairs creaked under my steps. Knees aching, heart heavy, I finally pushed open the frosted glass door. A young woman at the desk looked up. "Hello, do you have an appointment?" "Yes. Clara Hayes. I'm Eleanor Vance." "Miss Vance, she's expecting you. Please follow me." The office was tidy, lined with legal books and elegant paintings. Clara, early 30s, sharp suit, eyes both kind and perceptive, extended a firm hand. "Mrs. Vance. Sarah's mother mentioned you. Let's sit." I laid out everything: bank statements, loan documents, forged signatures. Clara's brows knit. This is serious. David is implicated in multiple crimes: fraud, forgery, embezzlement. And the evidence is solid. Criminal charges are possible. I swallowed. Report my own son. My fingers twisted nervously. "Most family disputes start with mediation," Clara continued gently. "What are your goals?" I drew a deep breath. "First, stop him from taking any more of my property. Second, recover the money. Third, ensure my home is safe." Clara nodded. We can start with a cease and desist letter demanding he stop and return the funds. Meanwhile, change your account passwords, report your ID as stolen, secure your deed. These loans are tied to your property. Default could lead to foreclosure. I shivered. My home, the place Robert and I had built, threatened over money. Family ties are fragile when finances are involved, Clara said softly. Be prepared for conflict. I let a bitter smile cross my face. They'd already threatened a nursing home. That's elder abuse, Clara added, her eyes keen. I showed her Samantha's text. She had me forward it immediately. Evidence. Mrs. Vance, you need to decide, protect what remains, or pursue full legal action. I looked out the window, sunlight glaring off the city glass. I remembered David as a sick child in my arms, the proud smiles Robert and I shared when he graduated, his wedding promises, "Mom, I'll take care of you for life." I laughed bitterly to myself. Promises broken. Lies told. But no more. Let's just secure the assets for now, I said finally, my voice calm but resolute. As for legal action, if they stop, I can forgive them. Clara gave me a long, meaningful look, her expression both approving and cautious. You're more forgiving than most clients. All right, I'll draft the cease and desist letter today. Once you get home, follow the instructions I gave you. Call me immediately if anything unusual happens. I left the law office with my heart pounding, heading straight to the police precinct to report my ID as stolen. A young officer at the front desk looked up casually as I walked in. "Why are you reporting this, ma'am?" he asked. "My son used it to take out loans in my name," I said evenly. His fingers froze over the keyboard, and he glanced at me sharply. "Ma'am, that's serious. Do you want to file a report now?" "Not yet," I replied. "I just need a temporary replacement ID." By the time the new ID was issued, it was already mid-afternoon. I rushed to the bank, where Maya Patel greeted me warmly. "Mrs. Vance. I was just about to call you," she said. I explained that I needed to secure my accounts and process the stolen ID paperwork. She immediately helped me change all my account passwords and guided me through the official forms. Lowering her voice, she added, "I reviewed the security footage. The person who made the withdrawals and applied for the loans, it was your son. Sometimes Samantha was with him." My stomach sank. "Is there video evidence?" "Yes," she said. "The bank keeps 3 months of footage, and I've backed up the relevant clips. They'll be useful if you need proof." I squeezed her hand in gratitude. "Thank you, Maya. More than you know." She hesitated a moment. "Mrs. Vance, did you know David recently asked about a home equity loan?" Lightning struck my chest. "What?" "Yes," Maya said softly. "He was at the bank just 2 days ago asking about using an elderly parent's property as collateral. I overheard him. You need to be careful with the house, he really is going after it." I thanked her and took a cab home, dread growing heavier with every passing block. The moment I opened the door, the smell of stale cigarette smoke hit me. David had already been there. I checked the house frantically. Every closet and drawer had been rifled through. But my heart lifted when I remembered the hidden compartment behind the study radiator. 3 baseboards removed, a small metal box pulled out, and inside, the deed, our marriage certificate, my late husband's will, and a few old savings bonds, all untouched. I exhaled slowly, relief washing over me. I called Clara immediately to report David's attempt. "Mrs. Vance, this is urgent," Clara's voice was grave. "I strongly recommend you leave your home immediately. Stay with a friend or relative. Tomorrow, we'll go to the county recorder's office to file a property lien dispute. That will prevent David from selling or transferring anything without your consent." I looked around the house I had lived in for 30 years, photos of David growing up, my husband's books on the shelves, the spatula I'd use daily. How could I leave? I'll think about it, I said vaguely. Later, my phone buzzed. A text from David: Mom, I'm coming tomorrow to take you to a retirement community. Really nice place. My hands shook, and the phone slipped from my fingers. They were serious, they were going to force me out. I texted back carefully, okay, Mom has been considering a change of scenery. Then I messaged Clara, I agree with your plan. I'll move out first thing in the morning. That night, I packed only necessities and valuables, leaving the rest untouched to avoid raising suspicion. I carefully wrapped Robert's photo and slipped it into my bag. The doorbell rang. I didn't check the peephole. Who is it? I called. It's Maya, came the familiar voice. Surprised, I opened the door to see her holding a USB drive. I thought you might need this, she said. It's the backup of the bank's security footage. I invited her in and poured a glass of water. She explained that she had worried David might escalate things and wanted to make sure I had evidence. Do you have anyone you can stay with? She asked. I shook my head. All my old friends are elderly. I don't want to burden anyone. Then you can stay with me, she offered. My roommate and I have space. You could use the living room. I was moved to tears. A virtual stranger cared more for my safety than my own son. Thank you, Maya. I've already contacted my lawyer. Tomorrow, I'll move to a secure place. After she left, sleep eluded me. At 4 a.m., I wrote a long letter to David, detailing everything I knew and the decisions I had made. I didn't plan to give it to him immediately, but one day, he would understand. At sunrise, I packed the deed, all documents, my temporary ID, and new bank cards into my bag. First stop, the county recorder's office. Clara was already waiting. You look exhausted, Mrs. Vance. Are you okay? She asked. Just, no sleep, I admitted. Let's get started. Filing the property lien dispute took less than an hour. From that moment, any transaction on my home required my consent. Where will you stay? Clara asked. I mentioned Maya's offer. Her eyes lit up. Perfect. She can help you monitor your accounts, but be careful not to put her in jeopardy. Suddenly, my phone rang. David. Mom, where are you? I'm downstairs to take you to see the community. Why isn't anyone answering the door? I replied calmly, something came up. We'll postpone that for now. I'm quite comfortable where I am. There was a pause, then his voice rose sharply. How could you do this? Samantha and I went through so much trouble. Difficult? I scoffed. David, I met with a lawyer yesterday. I know everything. The property lien is filed. You can forget about the house. Silence. Then a roar of fury. You old hag. You, just wait. The line went dead. Clara looked at me, concern etched on her face. How did he react? Furious, I said with a bitter smile. But it doesn't matter. The gloves are off. Clara drove me to Maya's apartment, reminding me to call her or the police if anything happened. I rang the doorbell, and soon, Chloe and Maya welcomed me into their modest but tidy home. They even bought new bedding to make me comfortable. Mrs. Vance, you can use my room. Chloe and I will share, Maya offered. Absolutely not. The living room is fine, I insisted. You've already done so much. Settled in, I glanced at the dozens of missed calls and texts from David and Samantha, pleas, apologies, threats, and insults. I didn't respond to a single one. Later, Maya came home with news that made my stomach knot. Mrs. Vance, your son went to the bank today. He tried to report your house deed as lost using your old ID. Thankfully, the system had already been updated with your report. The teller recognized he wasn't you. I let out a long, steadying breath. For the first time in weeks, I felt some sense of control return. I was trembling with rage. What was David trying to pull this time? Maya's voice on the phone brought me back to reality. The bank has alerted the police, she said quietly. But he fled before they could arrive. Before I could respond, my phone rang again. The number was unfamiliar. Hesitating, I answered. Mom, you've got some nerve, David's voice choked with feigned emotion. The police came to my door. I'm your son, how could you do this to me? I fought to keep my voice steady. David, you've brought this on yourself. I was wrong, okay, I admit it. I was confused for a moment. Please forgive me. I promise to be a good son from now on. If this were a few years ago, my heart might have softened. Now, I only felt disgust. David, my lawyer has prepared all the necessary documents. If you and Samantha stop harassing me and return the funds you stole, I will not press charges. Otherwise. Otherwise what? He snapped. You'll send your own mother to jail. His voice darkened with venom. You hung up on me, old hag. Just wait. Click. Maya, standing behind me, looked concerned. Mrs. Vance, are you all right? I shook my head, tears finally spilling over. What did I do to raise a son like this? She gently held me. It's not your fault, Eleanor. Some people simply don't appreciate what they have. That night, lying on a foreign sofa with the city sounds drifting in through the window, my heart felt torn in two. Yet, deep inside, I realized something profound. From now on, I would live for myself. I was Eleanor Vance, and no one could push me around anymore. 3 days later, the situation took a sudden, terrifying turn. The afternoon was heavy and muggy when the doorbell rang. Chloe opened it and gasped. Mrs. Vance, the police are here. My chest tightened. I walked to the door to find 2 uniformed officers and a woman wearing a badge from Adult Protective Services. Miss Eleanor Vance, the senior officer asked. We received a report alleging you have dementia and have gone missing on multiple occasions. Under the Elder Protection Act, we must take you for a psychiatric evaluation. I staggered. What? I'm perfectly fine. This is a lie. The social worker, calm but firm, said, many patients with dementia report the same. This is a routine check. If you are well, you will be back home shortly. Maya appeared from the kitchen, alarmed. What's going on? Mrs. Vance is fine. The officer narrowed his eyes. And you are? I'm a bank teller, Maya said urgently. I can verify that Mrs. Vance is completely mentally competent. Your son is lying. Ma'am, please do not obstruct our work, the officer interrupted. I'll go with you, I said evenly, whispering to Maya, call Clara Hayes. Tell her they're taking me to Serenity Meadows Hospital for a psychiatric evaluation. The officers ignored my protests as they led me away. Serenity Meadows was notorious, the only psychiatric facility in the city certified for evaluation of seniors. Its hallways smelled sharply of antiseptic, the air thick and oppressive. Inside an examination room, a middle-aged doctor with wire-rimmed glasses glanced at my paperwork. Name, he said. Eleanor Vance, 76, I corrected. My son had deliberately inflated my age. He nodded, scribbling something. We'll note she is younger than reported, a common dementia symptom. What? I whispered, stunned. The assessment was absurd. He asked simple questions, today's date, the mayor's name, a basic subtraction exercise. I answered each flawlessly, but his expression darkened. Your son claims you forget to turn off the stove and wander outside alone. Is this accurate? Never, I said sharply. Denial is also a dementia symptom, he noted to the officers. Then he wrote on the chart, suspected Alzheimer's disease. Recommend inpatient observation. I felt as though the ground had been ripped from under me. No scans, no detailed consultation, just lies and snap judgments. I am perfectly fine, I insisted, showing him the evidence. My lawyer can prove I am being framed. He scribbled more notes and turned to a nurse. Administer a sedative and send her to the inpatient unit. The needle pricked my arm, and darkness swallowed me. When I woke, I was strapped to the bed with soft restraints. 4 beds filled the room, other residents stared blankly or slept. The smell of medicine and urine was suffocating. Don't struggle, a frail voice warned. The more you fight, the tighter they tie you. I turned to see a rail-thin woman with unervingly sharp eyes. I'm not sick, I whispered. Neither am I, she replied bitterly. My daughter sent me here because I wouldn't sell my house. Her words hit me like a thunderbolt. She and I were victims of the same system, families seeking money, facilities exploiting the elderly, and complicit doctors. I'm Beatrice Gallo, she said. What's your name? Eleanor Vance, I replied. She explained the routine, restraints during sleep, doors locked, surveillance everywhere. They controlled every movement. When a portly orderly arrived with medication, I pretended to swallow the pills but secretly hid them under my tongue. Beatrice nodded approvingly. Later, she whispered instructions for hiding the medication in the bathroom tank, warning that it could make patients lose their minds if taken. She also told me about Arthur Finch, a former teacher quietly documenting complaints that never reached the outside world. Through her, I realized I was not alone. We were a network of the sane trapped inside a corrupt system, children's greed, hospitals' profit, doctors' deception. And we, the elderly, had been stripped of autonomy. That evening, when I retrieved the pills and notes from the tank, I felt a spark of hope. With careful planning, vigilance, and allies like Beatrice and Arthur, I could survive, and one day, I would fight back. A strange warmth spread through my chest. Even in this suffocating place, I was not completely alone. There were still people here who could think, who could reason. Before bed, the orderly returned to tie my hands. I didn't resist this time. After he left, Beatrice whispered, "Tomorrow, I'll show you how to pretend confusion and refuse pills without raising suspicion. We have to survive until we can get out." I lay in the dark, listening to the breathing and murmurs of the other residents, tears slipping silently down my cheeks. David and Samantha, how could they live with themselves, leaving me to spend my days in a place like this? Then I remembered my phone. They hadn't taken it. It was still in my pants pocket. Carefully, twisting my body within the restraints, I managed to reach it. My fingers brushed it after minutes of painstaking effort. Half the battery remained. I didn't dare turn it on yet, but the small device was a thread of hope. The next morning, during breakfast, I deliberately spilled my oatmeal, pretending clumsiness. The orderly muttered curses as he changed my clothes, but suspicion in his eyes lessened. I was starting to be seen as one of the confused ones. During activity time, I subtly moved next to Arthur, pretending to fold paper. "You were framed," he whispered. I nodded. "My son wants my house." Arthur gave a wry sneer. "A classic. But I've been watching you. Your eyes are too clear. You have to learn the act. I'll show you how to gather evidence without drawing attention. Memorize schedules. Note blind spots in cameras. Document every abuse. Most importantly, find someone trustworthy to get a message out. Do you have anyone like that?" I thought of Maya and Clara, frantic on my trail. "Yes, but they don't know I'm here yet," I whispered. Arthur's eyes lit up. Next Wednesday is family visiting day. That's your window. Back in the room, I shared the plan with Beatrice. Her eyes sparkled. I know a cleaning lady. She can pass your message. Don't worry, my daughter works for a newspaper. This will be exposed. And so, the three of us formed a fragile alliance, a tiny resistance inside the facility. Over the next days, I perfected my act of confusion while quietly documenting every violation: residents restrained for 12 hours, forced to take expired medication, orderlies who hit the non-compliant. The most chilling revelation was the secret arrangement some families made with the facility, special care, that was actually systematic abuse until residents became docile. On Wednesday morning, I carefully sewed a note into the lining of my bra, filled with evidence. Beatrice knew one of the cleaning staff well. The woman nodded silently. Don't worry. This will get out, she whispered. Visiting hours arrived. The activity room was clean, bright, and welcoming. Residents were dressed in their best. Orderlies smiled, masking the usual hostility. I sat in a corner, eyes scanning for a familiar face. Then, a familiar figure appeared, Maya. Casual clothes, calm demeanor, pretending to visit another resident. Our eyes met across the room. Shock and relief crossed her face before she composed herself and approached. Grandma, she said softly, kneeling and taking my hands. I've come to see you. I squeezed her hand and whispered, bro pocket. Maya understood, pretending to adjust my collar while retrieving the note. An orderly came over, inspecting. She smiled brightly. Grandma, you look so well. We all miss you so much. The orderly, satisfied, walked away. Before leaving, Maya winked and mouthed, hang in there. My heart pounded. The note contained the evidence I had collected and a crucial detail: David had already filed a petition to have me declared legally incompetent. If successful, he would gain full control of my assets. I had to stop him. But how, trapped inside this prison? That evening, Arthur whispered astonishing news. Officials from the Department of Health were scheduled for an inspection next week. This could be our chance. Beatrice and I began preparing detailed complaints. Arthur even drew a floor plan, marking cameras, guard stations, and blind spots. If we can talk to them face to face, he said, eyes gleaming, we could expose everything. Beatrice shared the excitement, though apprehension lingered. Then, disaster struck. The evening before the inspection, my medication was increased without warning. Bed 305, new prescription to help you sleep, the orderly barked. I resisted, insisting I didn't need it. He pinched my nose and forced the pills down my throat. That night, I slept heavily, missing the inspection entirely. When I awoke, Beatrice's eyes were swollen with tears. Arthur looked grim. The inspection was rigged, Beatrice whispered. Someone tipped them off. The facility locked all problem residents away. Our last hope is gone. I stared at the cracked ceiling, my heart sinking. Was I doomed to spend my final years here? Could David and Samantha really get away with everything? I clenched my fists. Even if they tried, would not stop fighting. 3 days passed before the sedative's fog lifted. Beatrice warned that Arthur's medication had also been increased to keep him docile. He now spent hours in a haze. The cleaning ally was gone, replaced by a strict and watchful man. Activity time was cancelled. Meals deteriorated. The staff grew more hostile. The entire facility was on high alert. Our resistance was forced into hiding, we had to appear compliant. Yet, in secret, we continued to observe and remember. I memorized every orderly's name and shift, the distribution schedule of medication, and even that the director left for 2 hours every Wednesday afternoon. Don't lose hope, Beatrice whispered as we prepared for the day. Opportunities come when you least expect them. Then, one seemingly ordinary Thursday morning, the director entered the activity room with several visitors. One woman in a wheelchair immediately caught my attention: silver hair, sharp eyes, aura of authority. "This is our new resident, Dr. Lydia Reed," the director announced with exaggerated deference. "She is a retired professor from the University of Chicago. Please make her feel welcome." She was assigned to the empty bed in our room. From the first day, Dr. Reed was different. She refused unidentified medication, demanded to choose her own meals, and requested the facility's operating license and staff credentials. "I am here for convalescence, not incarceration," she told an orderly firmly. "If you attempt to medicate me against my will, I will pursue legal action for elder abuse." The staff were visibly intimidated, showing her unusual respect. The director himself checked on her repeatedly, calling her Dr. Reed. Beatrice leaned closer. "Who is this woman?" I shook my head, but a spark of hope ignited. Dr. Reed was no ordinary resident. Perhaps she was the breakthrough we had been waiting for. The next morning at breakfast, I carefully chose my seat beside Dr. Reed, pretending to help her with utensils while quietly whispering, "Were you sent here by your family?" She gave me a piercing glance, then whispered back, "No. I came here on my own. Arthritis flares up, and I need assistance. My children are overseas." She lowered her voice slightly, eyes scanning the room. "And you? You don't look like someone who's confused." Relief washed over me. We had made contact. Over the next few days, I discreetly observed her, confirming that Dr. Reed was exceptionally sharp and voluntarily here. More importantly, she had a smartphone her children had given her, with full internet access. One afternoon, when it was just the three of us in our room, Beatrice, Dr. Reed, and I finally gathered the courage. "Could you help us?" I asked, my voice trembling slightly. An orderly had just left after his rounds. I explained how we had been trying to get evidence out of the facility, how our previous attempts had failed. Dr. Reed listened carefully, then nodded. I suspected something was wrong here. Just the other day, I saw an orderly hit one of the dementia patients. "Can you help us send a message?" Beatrice asked urgently. Dr. Reed reached for her phone. "Tell me who to contact." I gave her Clara's and Maya's numbers. Beatrice added her daughter's contact at the newspaper. Dr. Reed carefully noted everything, promising to make contact that night. But she warned us, "You must be careful. I've heard that a major corporation is set to acquire this facility next month. They're cleaning house." Cleaning house. Beatrice and I exchanged a horrified glance. Dr. Reed shook her head. "I don't know the specifics, but several troublesome residents have recently been transferred, or worse. Stay alert." A chill ran down my spine. David and Samantha sending me here, was it mere coincidence, or part of a more sinister plan? The following day, Dr. Reed confirmed she had reached both Clara and Maya. The young woman from the bank had been frantically searching for me for weeks. Dr. Reed explained her plan: she would pretend to be my niece and visit the facility the next day to collect the evidence. Beatrice and I almost cried from relief. That night, we compiled every scrap of proof we had: records of illegal medication, secretly filmed abuse captured on Dr. Reed's phone, and documents exposing financial irregularities. The next morning, Maya arrived exactly as planned. She quickly assessed my frail condition but held back her tears. "Mrs. Vance," she said, gripping my hand. I discreetly slipped the USB drive into her purse. "Be careful," I whispered. "There are cameras everywhere." Maya nodded, then loudly said, "Aunt Eleanor, you're looking wonderful. I'll come back soon." Once she left, Beatrice and I were filled with a mixture of triumph and fear. The evidence was out, but what would the facility do in retaliation? 3 days later, on a Saturday afternoon, chaos erupted. The director scurried around with a grim expression, calling all orderlies to an emergency meeting. Dr. Reed whispered to us, "Someone posted an anonymous tip online about the abuse here. Reporters and Department of Health inspectors are coming for a surprise inspection tomorrow." We wept quietly with joy. Maya had succeeded. That night, the facility staged a ridiculous performance. New bedding replaced the worn-out sheets, expired medications were swapped for the current ones, and even a barber was brought in to tidy the residents' hair. The director personally inspected every corner, issuing threats, "If anyone speaks out tomorrow, double the medication tonight." But they miscalculated. Dr. Reed had been feeding Maya live updates via her phone. Arthur, even groggy from sedatives, had managed to write a detailed complaint letter, hiding it in his shoe. The next day, the inspection team arrived, including police officers and television reporters. As the staff began their staged performance, Dr. Reed suddenly stood in her wheelchair. "Sir, I have a report to make," she said firmly. The room erupted into murmurs. The director tried to stop her, but it was too late. Dr. Reed displayed the videos of abuse from her phone. Arthur handed over his letter. Beatrice and I led the inspectors through the facility, exposing the real living conditions and the drug storage room. By evening, the facility was ordered to shut down pending investigation. The director and several orderlies were taken into custody, and the remaining residents were temporarily relocated to a proper senior living community nearby. In the lobby of the new facility, I finally saw Clara and Maya rushing toward me. "Mrs. Vance." Maya cried, throwing her arms around me, tears streaming. "You've lost so much weight." Clara, ever composed, took charge. "Mrs. Vance, the competency hearing your son filed is in 2 days. We need to prepare immediately." While I had been trapped, David had nearly completed the process to take control of my assets. I asked nervously, "Do we have a chance?" Clara smiled confidently. "We do now. The abuse evidence, the willingness of Dr. Reed and other residents to testify, and your proven competency make it impossible for him to succeed." The next 24 hours were a whirlwind. Clara arranged a certified psychiatric evaluation, confirming I was fully competent. Maya organized all the evidence, including Kevin's forgeries, and Dr. Reed contacted her legal connections to provide expert support. On the day of the hearing, I wore the professional suit Clara provided, my white hair neatly styled. I walked into the courthouse with my back straight. In the gallery sat Maya, Dr. Reed, Beatrice, and Arthur, my entire resistance alliance. David and Samantha sat at the defendant's table, their faces ashen. As they saw me poised and strong, shock turned to fear and despair. The judge examined the evidence carefully, noting the stark contrast between the facility doctor's falsified report and the certified evaluation. When Dr. Reed testified about how facilities collude with families to exploit the elderly, a wave of shock passed through the courtroom. Finally, the judge announced, "This court denies the petitioner's request to declare the respondent incompetent." Furthermore, the court notes allegations of elder abuse and financial misconduct by the petitioner and recommends a full investigation by the district attorney. The courtroom erupted. David slumped in his chair. Samantha screamed, "You old hag. You'll regret this," before being escorted out. Outside, sunlight felt like a blessing. Clara informed me that David and Samantha not only lost the case, but a criminal investigation had been initiated. "Mrs. Vance, you won," Maya said, linking her arm with mine, tears of relief in her eyes. I shook my head. "No, we won. All of us. Our resistance alliance." Beatrice was reunited with her daughter. Arthur's son faced investigation and had the chance to reclaim his home. Dr. Reed began forming an advocacy group for elder rights. And with Maya and Clara, I would continue the fight to recover my stolen assets. In that moment, I simply breathed in freedom, the sunlight warming my face. I thought of my late husband, Robert. Did he see this? I didn't give up, and I would keep fighting until everything that belonged to us was restored. 3 days after the victory in court, I returned home. Pushing open the familiar door, a musty smell greeted me. It was clear no one had been here. Yet for the first time in years, I felt the home was truly mine again. A fine layer of dust coated the furniture, and the refrigerator smelled faintly of decay. I set my bag down and rushed to the secret compartment behind the radiator. The metal box was untouched, my deed, savings bonds, and my husband's will were all intact. Relief flooded through me as I clutched the box, collapsing onto the sofa with tears streaming down my face. For the first time since Robert's death, I felt genuinely safe. The nightmare of the last few months seemed, for a moment, suspended. My phone buzzed, breaking the stillness. It was Clara. "Mrs. Vance, I have good news," she said, her voice brisk but warm. "The court has launched a criminal investigation against your son and daughter-in-law. They'll need you to provide a detailed statement." "Of course. I can come anytime," I replied, trying to steady my trembling hands. Clara's tone shifted. "David's assets are frozen, the BMW, multiple bank accounts, but there's evidence he and Samantha recently transferred a significant sum. We'll need to trace it." My chest tightened. "Can we recover it?" "It will be challenging, but we will do everything we can," she assured me. Then, gently but firmly, "Prepare yourself. This will be a long, painful process." I knew exactly what she meant. No mother wants to send her own child to prison. But as I thought back to those endless, terrifying days in the facility, the restraints, the forced medications, my resolve hardened. "I'm ready. Let justice run its course," I said. After hanging up, I began deep cleaning the house, scrubbing away the shadows of the past months. While sorting through David's abandoned room, I discovered a crumpled piece of paper hidden under the bed, a draft contract from a real estate company dated just a day before my forced confinement. It revealed that David had arranged with Lakeview Realty to sell my home at 30% below market value, provided I wouldn't object. In return, he would receive a small condo and $10,000 in cash. My hands shook so violently I could barely hold the paper. It was premeditated. They didn't just want money, they wanted the home Robert and I had built together. I photographed the contract and immediately sent it to Clara. Less than 10 minutes later, she called back, her voice sharp with excitement. "Mrs. Vance, this is a smoking gun. Conspiracy, fraud, collusion with the real estate company, it's all here. I've alerted the Economic Crimes Unit. Your home is safe, no one will dare touch it now." That afternoon, Maya arrived, juggling groceries with her usual cheer. "I thought you might need some help getting your strength back," she said, unpacking everything. Watching her move through my kitchen, I felt warmth I hadn't realized I'd missed. "Maya, your parents must be proud of you," I said at dinner. "They're just regular working-class folks," she replied with a soft smile. "They taught me to be kind and responsible." She hesitated, then asked, "Mrs. Vance, do you hate your son?" I set down my fork and remained silent, letting the words settle. Slowly, I said, "I did. But now, it's more sorrow than anger. I grieve the son he became and my own failure to guide him." Maya squeezed my hand. "It's not your fault. Everyone must answer for their own choices." The next day, I went to the police station. Officer Miller, a middle-aged man with kind eyes, listened as I recounted my ordeal at the facility. He furrowed his brow, then called a colleague from the Elder Abuse Unit. "Mrs. Vance, your case is far more serious than we initially thought," Officer Miller said. "David and Samantha face multiple charges: elder abuse, financial fraud, and forgery. The facility investigation is ongoing. Several arrests have already been made." I whispered, "Do you think they'll go to prison?" "It's very likely," he said bluntly. Prepare yourself. Walking out into the bright sunlight, I spotted a familiar figure across the street, David. He looked haggard, unshaven, and furious. Our eyes met. He traced a slit across his throat with his finger and then walked away. My heart sank. My own son harbored such hatred. The realization cut deeper than any physical pain. Back home, I immediately changed the locks and installed a security chain and peephole camera. Clara had been right, protection was essential. That night, sleep eluded me. At 3 a.m., my phone rang. An unknown number. "Mom," David said, voice strained. "There's nothing to discuss," I said, calm but firm. "Just 10 minutes," he pleaded. I hesitated, then chose a public place for safety. "Millennium Park, bench by the fountain, tomorrow morning." 10 minutes, I agreed. The following day, I arrived prepared, my phone's emergency contact set, a small audio recorder tucked in my purse, and a busy, open spot chosen. 10 minutes late, David arrived, looking ruined. "I've hit rock bottom," he admitted. His accounts were frozen, Samantha had taken Michael and gone home, and his company was ready to terminate him. He rambled, but the blame was clear, he painted his life's ruin as my fault. "If you're here to blame me, this ends now," I said, standing. "Mom, please, drop the charges. If you do, Samantha might return with Michael, and my job. Do you know what you've done?" I cut him off sharply. "You sent me to that hell, had me drugged and restrained. That wasn't Samantha's idea, it was yours." He twisted, deflecting. "She suggested it." "Stop lying. You forged my signature. Stole my pension. And I know about the real estate deal," I said coldly. His face shifted from remorse to rage. "You old hag. You're just trying to ruin me." He grabbed my wrist. "Let go. There are cameras. The police are nearby," I warned. He instantly released me, panic flashing across his face. I stepped back and pulled out the recorder. "I recorded everything. This is on you." Pale, he muttered, "Mom, I was wrong. I just got carried away." "Goodbye, David," I said, walking away without looking back. At home, I immediately sent the recording to Clara. Her voice was elated. "This is perfect," he admitted knowledge of the abuse and threats. "It's irrefutable." Victory brought no joy, only sorrow. The boy who once curled in my arms had become a stranger. 3 days later, the police arrested David. Samantha was questioned the same day. Initially blaming David, she eventually admitted her role under the weight of evidence. Clara laughed bitterly over the phone, they were pointing fingers at each other, each claiming the other orchestrated my confinement. I shook my head. "She always saw me as a nuisance," I murmured. Clara's tone turned pragmatic. "Now, we move on to asset recovery. Your son's accounts are frozen, but significant funds were transferred to Samantha's family. That will be challenging to recover, but we'll pursue it." Though the road ahead would be difficult, I felt stronger, ready to reclaim my life, my home, and my dignity. "Whatever you can recover is enough," I said, exhaling slowly. "The key is making sure they can never hurt me, or any other elderly person, again." Clara was silent for a moment. Then her voice softened. "You know, Eleanor, I underestimated your strength. Most parents in your position would have caved by now." "I won't," I said firmly, meeting her gaze. "Not for me alone, but for everyone still trapped in places like that." A week later, the district attorney's office formally charged David and Samantha. At the same time, there was progress in the care facility investigation. The director and several staff members were arrested, and a dozen residents were reunited with family members, including Beatrice and Arthur. Beatrice's daughter came to thank me personally, tears streaming as she said she had no idea what her mother endured. Arthur's nephew collected him, and before leaving, Arthur slipped me a note with his new contact details. Stay in touch. Our fight isn't over. He was right. My battle was only a small part of a much larger issue, the abuse and exploitation of elders. I immediately called Dr. Reed. Lydia, about that advocacy group for seniors you mentioned, I want to join. Dr. Reed's voice lit up. Excellent. We need someone with real experience. We're holding a planning meeting this weekend. You have to be there. That weekend, I walked into the conference room for the first time as an elder rights advocate. Retired judges, attorneys, social workers, and other seniors with stories like mine filled the space. Dr. Reed, the founder, introduced me and recounted my ordeal. A round of applause followed. We officially launched the Silver Sentinel Alliance, dedicated to assisting seniors who suffered abuse or financial exploitation. I was elected vice president in charge of the Victim Support Network. Dr. Reed squeezed my hand and said, "Eleanor, your story will inspire countless others to stand up." I nodded, a long-dormant sense of purpose swelling in my chest. Perhaps my suffering could become strength for others. On the way home, I stopped by the cemetery. Laying a bouquet of white lilies on Robert's grave, I whispered, "Robert, I'm starting a new life. You'd be proud, wouldn't you?" A soft breeze rustled the trees, as if in reply. The night before the trial, I tossed and turned, memories of David as a child blending with fear and anticipation. His first word, the day he walked to school with his backpack, his smile at his college acceptance, all of it flashed before me. Dawn found me with tears soaking my pillow. I washed my face and dressed in the navy blue suit Clara had selected, my hair neatly pulled back. The reflection staring back at me was of a woman marked by time, yet resolute and dignified. Today, I would face the son I once cherished, and hold him accountable in a court of law. Maya arrived early, taking my hand silently during the drive to the courthouse. "No matter what happens, you're already victorious," she whispered. "You dared to fight injustice." Reporters crowded the entrance, eager to cover what had become a landmark elder rights case. Security checks completed, we were ushered into courtroom 3. The gallery was packed. Dr. Reed, Beatrice's daughter, Arthur's nephew, and a few fellow residents from the facility sat in support. Across the room, David and Samantha waited, each with a court-appointed lawyer. David's suit hung awkwardly, his hair was disheveled, and his gaze flitted nervously. Samantha, heavily made up, radiated bitterness. Her glare was venomous, but David avoided my eyes. "All rise," the bailiff announced. The judge, a stern woman in her 50s with sharp eyes, entered. After calling the court to order, the prosecutor began his opening statement, detailing the charges: abuse of a vulnerable adult, embezzlement, forgery of documents. Each accusation stabbed at my heart. I had to remain strong. Clara presented the evidence with clarity and precision: bank statements, forged documents, abuse reports from the facility, and the damning audio recording from Millennium Park. When Kevin's enraged voice echoed in the courtroom, shouting, "You old hag, you're trying to ruin me." "I'll deal with you," the gallery gasped. Silence fell when the recording ended. David slumped, Samantha's face turned ghostly pale. Clara's closing statements were unwavering. "This case goes beyond a family dispute," she declared. "It illustrates the real danger to vulnerable elders. The defendants manipulated love and trust to exploit Eleanor Vance for personal gain. We ask this court for just punishment and full restitution of her assets." The defense faltered. David's attorney framed it as a minor family misunderstanding. Samantha's counsel claimed she was merely following her husband. The judge repeatedly demanded focus on facts. When Samantha's lawyer claimed she had always been affectionate toward me, the judge played her threatening voicemail: "Old hag, how dare you hang up on my husband? You want us to ship you off to a nursing home?" Her facade crumbled, turning from arrogance to humiliation. During final remarks, David rose, voice trembling. "Mom, I was wrong. Please forgive me." I looked at the boy who once cuddled in my arms, the criminal he had become. Tears blurred my vision, but my resolve held. "Your Honor," I said steadily, "I do not ask for vengeance. I ask for justice. I hope my son understands his mistakes and reforms. As for the property, it belongs to my husband and me. I demand its return." The judge called a recess. The hour of deliberation stretched endlessly. Maya held my hand, Clara offered quiet reassurance, and Dr. Reed spoke to reporters about the broader elder rights implications. Finally, the judge returned. "All rise. The court finds David Vance and Samantha Vance guilty of abuse of a vulnerable adult, embezzlement, and forgery. The evidence is undeniable. Considering the severity and societal impact, the sentences are as follows: David Vance, 3 years, suspended pending 4 years probation. Samantha Vance, 2 years, suspended pending 3 years probation. Both are ordered to make full restitution of $18,600 within 10 days and an additional $10,000 in punitive damages. Though the prison sentences were suspended, the criminal records would remain. The restitution, nearly $120,000, would reclaim almost everything they had tried to steal." Outside the courthouse, reporters surged forward. Clara shielded me, but I stepped into the cameras. "This victory is not mine alone," I said. "It is for every elder who has suffered abuse. If you are in a similar situation, do not stay silent. The law can protect you. And as for David and Samantha, I forgive them personally, but I cannot forgive their disregard for justice." I inhaled deeply, the spring air filling my lungs. For the first time in years, I felt truly free, and determined to continue protecting those who could not protect themselves. I hoped my act of forgiveness would guide David toward real change. A few days later, a major newspaper published a quote from me under the headline, "A Mother's Strength in Grace, Forgiving, but Never Forgetting." The story highlighted the courage it took to face one's own family while pursuing justice. After the verdict, David and Samantha were forced to sell the BMW and some of their jewelry to make the first restitution payment. Their marriage ended swiftly. Samantha filed for divorce 3 days after the trial, taking Michael back to her parents' home. David moved into a small, rented room on the outskirts of the city. Rumors reached me that he spent most of his days drinking, alone. I didn't visit him. Some wounds require time to heal. Life, on the other hand, slowly returned to rhythm. The work at the Silver Sentinel Alliance expanded rapidly. We were fielding calls for help from seniors across the country. Dr. Reed, Maya, and other volunteers divided shifts providing legal advice and emotional support. Maya practically became my adopted daughter, dropping by weekly to help with errands, bring groceries, or teach me the latest smartphone trick. She encouraged me to start a social media page for elder rights awareness, and I eagerly embraced the task. One rainy afternoon, as I sorted through case files in the office, the doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I froze. It was David. Thin, unshaven, wearing wrinkled clothes, clutching a plastic grocery bag, he seemed almost unrecognizable. My instincts screamed caution, and I left the security chain in place. "Mom," he said, voice low. "Can I come in?" "What is it?" I asked, calm but wary. I came to make things right," he said, holding up the bag. "This is the final payment. The $10,000. Everything is settled." I unlocked the chain and allowed him inside, leaving the door slightly ajar. David stood stiffly in the living room, avoiding my gaze. I took the envelope of money, counted it in front of him, and put it away. "Anything else?" I asked. Suddenly, he collapsed to his knees, head bowed. Mom, I was wrong. I know it now. Samantha left me. My business is gone. Friends avoid me. I have nothing. I deserve none of this, but I need forgiveness. I fought the urge to help him up. David, I said softly but firmly, this is the path you chose. I know. He grasped my hands, his desperation raw. Please, Mom, can you forgive me? I promise I'll turn my life around. I stared at him, torn between a mother's compassion and the caution born of betrayal. Slowly, I said, I can forgive you. But I will not forget. Trust, that will take time. A flicker of hope appeared in his eyes. Thank you. Mom, he whispered. You should leave now, I interrupted gently. When you've truly changed, you can seek me out. After he left, I sat before my husband Robert's portrait, tears slipping silently down my cheeks. Forgiveness does not erase the past. Some cracks remain permanent. And yet, life moves forward. The next day, I returned to the Alliance. Dr. Reed beamed. Eleanor, our work is gaining national attention. The National Council on Aging wants to invite us to a symposium on elder protection. You've become quite the figure. I laughed softly. I'm not seeking fame. I just want to help more people like me. That evening, Maya arrived for dinner, bubbling with excitement. Mrs. Vance, the bank is honoring me for civic responsibility. They might promote me early. Her eyes sparkled with pride. I smiled, placing a piece of fish on her plate. Silly girl. It's because you have a good heart. Before bed, I checked the locks on doors and windows, a habit ingrained from my time in the facility. Lying in bed, I reflected on the past 6 months, the betrayal, the confinement, the fight for justice, and the rebuilding of life. It all felt almost unreal. My phone buzzed. It was a text from David. Mom, I found a job, warehouse manager at a friend's factory. Pays modest, but I'll work hard. Good night. For the first time in years, I felt a flicker of hope. I replied, work hard. Take care of yourself. Looking up at the starry sky, I whispered to Robert, did you see him? Maybe there is hope yet. And I'm finally living a life that's truly my own. 3 months after founding the Silver Sentinel Alliance, we moved from Dr. Reed's living room into 2 proper offices provided by the city. Membership soared from a dozen to over 100, including 6 lawyers, 2 retired judges, and 4 counselors. I was officially vice president, primarily overseeing the Property Protection Initiative, which addressed scams targeting seniors' homes. Dr. Reed handed me a case file. Eleanor, look at this. Mr. Henderson, 80 years old, tricked by his grandson into signing over his home. Now he's homeless. I read through the details, my heart aching. Mr. Henderson's story mirrored mine. His grandson promised care, then secretly signed over property deeds and took out a massive reverse mortgage. Can we recover his home? I asked our legal counsel. It's complicated. Legally, the papers are binding. But we can help him sue for elder support and financial restitution, the lawyer replied. Week after week, more cases arrived. Seniors defrauded by children, deceived into predatory contracts, or evicted from their homes. I realized prevention was as important as recovery. At a planning meeting, I suggested, we should partner with community centers for legal literacy workshops, teach seniors how to protect property, recognize scams, and consult professionals before signing anything. Dr. Reed agreed immediately. Brilliant. You have the perfect experience to lead this, Eleanor. Thus, the Home Guard project began. Volunteers and I visited community centers, teaching seniors about safeguarding deeds, avoiding high-risk investments, and consulting lawyers or notaries. Watching attendees take notes was both gratifying and heart-wrenching. After workshops, many approached me privately. Their stories varied, but the betrayal was the same. A son who used a deed as loan collateral. A daughter who tricked her mother into signing a care agreement that turned out to be a quitclaim deed. Even siblings selling family homes while elders were hospitalized. Each tale reinforced my determination: knowledge is power. Maya suggested we build a database documenting elder property fraud cases. Soon, we tracked every scam, resolution, and legal precedent. One afternoon, she pointed excitedly at her screen. "Mrs. Vance, Lakeview Realty, David's accomplice, has been reported again." I leaned closer, horrified. The company targeted seniors, promising high prices for homes, then deceiving them into lowball sales while flipping properties for profit. "Exactly what they tried to do to me," I whispered. Maya nodded. "They have scripts, tactics, and a network. We need to expose them." Through Dr. Reed's contacts, we reached a reporter at the Chicago Tribune, determined to shine a light on this predatory company. I felt a surge of purpose: knowledge, vigilance, and action could save lives. After 2 weeks of careful, undercover reporting, a groundbreaking article appeared: "Predatory Real Estate Firm Targets Seniors Using Family as a Weapon." The piece meticulously detailed Lakeview Realty's tactics, even referencing my own case. One line stood out: "The company colluded with unscrupulous children to place elderly parents into care facilities before acquiring their properties at a fraction of market value." The public outcry was immediate. The Department of Financial and Professional Regulation launched a swift investigation. Victims began to come forward in droves. The company's owner was questioned, and all financial accounts were frozen. Maya burst into the office, waving the newspaper like a victory flag, her grin infectious. I remained cautious. "This is just one battle," I reminded her. "Companies like this can rebrand and continue. What we really need is strong legislation to protect seniors up front, before the fraud starts." Dr. Reed nodded in agreement. "Eleanor, your instincts are right. Our next step is to draft local ordinances that provide additional safeguards for real estate transactions involving seniors." Together, we began preparing a senior homeowner protection ordinance to present to the City Council. The work was meticulous and demanding, but absolutely necessary. Meanwhile, life at home was gradually stabilizing. David sent a weekly text to check in and occasionally left groceries at my door, but he never came inside. I understood it was his way of showing remorse, yet I wasn't ready to invite him back into my life so easily. Maya became a fixture, dropping by at least twice a week for dinner. Her culinary skills had improved remarkably, and she delighted in preparing my favorite dishes. "Mrs. Vance, how's the braised fish?" she would ask, eagerly watching my reaction. "Almost perfect," I'd say with a smile, though secretly I still compared it to Robert's recipe. "Then you must teach me," she'd reply, eyes sparkling with excitement. These simple routines brought warmth I had never thought I would feel again. Yet beneath that calm, there were still shadows. One night, the shrill chime of the doorbell jolted me awake. Through the peephole, I saw Samantha. Her face was hard, her eyes dark. "Open the door," she shouted. "I know you're home," she yelled, pounding violently. I made no sound. Quietly, I retreated to my bedroom and dialed 911. By the time the police arrived, Samantha had vanished. On my door, spray-painted in red letters, were the words, "Old Hag." The officers filed a report and advised upgrading security cameras. The following day, Clara helped me secure a restraining order. I was bewildered. Why would she suddenly show up like this? Clara explained, her voice steady. The Lakeview Realty investigation revealed her involvement. Samantha worked as a part-time consultant for the company, identifying elderly homeowners with valuable property, including you. I drew a sharp breath. From the very beginning, I had been a target. "Will she go to jail?" I asked. Very likely, Clara confirmed. She faces multiple counts of real estate fraud, and the sums involved are staggering. I hung up, a storm of conflicting emotions churning inside me. Samantha deserved justice, but she was still the mother of my grandchildren. At my next workshop, I shared the case anonymously, emphasizing the warning signs without revealing her identity. Watching the attendees' shocked faces, I realized I had potentially prevented similar tragedies. Afterward, an elderly man leaning on a cane approached me. "Mrs. Vance, thank you. My son has been pressuring me to sign over my house, promising long-term care insurance. After hearing your story, I'm seeing a lawyer first." I held his hand, my eyes filling with tears. This was why I had fought so hard, to protect others. Later, I checked my phone. No message from David. A news alert, however, announced a development. Samantha had been taken into custody as a key suspect. I imagined David must be struggling. After a long pause, I dialed his number. "Mom," he answered, voice shaky. "Are you okay?" I asked gently. A long silence followed. "Samantha's in custody," he finally said. "Her parents are taking care of the kids for now." I didn't know what to say. Finally, I whispered, "If you need help, I'm here." Then, breaking down, he sobbed. "I'm so sorry, for everything, for what I did to you, to Dad's memory." Hearing my son's broken voice, my heart clenched. Blood is thicker than water, and no matter the betrayal, that bond never fully breaks. "David," I said softly, "everyone makes mistakes. The important thing is to learn from them." That night, I had a dream. Robert stood on our balcony, watering the geraniums. Sunlight caught his white hair, making it glow. "Robert," I asked in my dream, "am I doing the right thing?" He turned, smiling as warmly as ever. "Eleanor, you're doing wonderfully." I woke to a bright morning, pillow damp with tears. Outside, the geraniums swayed gently in the breeze, their white petals gleaming. When the Lakeview Realty trial began, the courthouse entrance was a sea of reporters and onlookers. Samantha, led to the defendant's table, was almost unrecognizable, haggard, her perfect makeup gone, hair disheveled. Her eyes flickered with resentment before lowering. The prosecutor read the charges: fraud, wire fraud, conspiracy. The total losses exceeded $2 million, affecting more than 30 seniors. Samantha, as a key operative, had identified targets and leveraged personal connections to execute the scheme. My heart ached as I listened. My former daughter-in-law had been part of a vast criminal enterprise. And David, did he know? Had he been complicit? A murmur rippled through the courtroom when my case was mentioned. Samantha had targeted my home from the start. David initially resisted, but eventually relented under her persistence. The prosecutor stated, based on Samantha's own confession, that she had conspired with David to have me committed to a care facility to remove me as an obstacle. My grip tightened on the armrest. I had long suspected it, but hearing it confirmed made my chest constrict. When I testified, I spoke calmly, recounting my ordeal and highlighting how elderly individuals' trust can be exploited, even by family. Some seniors in the gallery sobbed quietly. Samantha's lawyer attempted to minimize her role, claiming she was manipulated. The prosecutor countered with clear evidence: she had planned scams, coordinated transactions, and received substantial profit shares. The trial lasted all day. The judge recessed for deliberation. As I left the courtroom, a frail, white-haired woman clutched my hand. "Mrs. Vance, thank you. My husband lost our home, and it nearly killed him. You've given us hope." I hugged her, words failing me. There were so many like her, and only so much one person could do. At home, Maya was in the kitchen, cooking. The aroma filled the house. "Mrs. Vance, how did it go?" she asked. I briefly recounted the day. Samantha is facing justice, I said. Will this affect David? Maya asked. The prosecutor said he wasn't involved in other scams, but as for my case, I trailed off. After dinner, Maya handed me an envelope. I want you to see this, she said softly. Inside was an old photograph of her as a young girl with a woman. This is my mother, she whispered. She passed when I was 5. My father says her biggest regret was not being able to care for my grandmother. I held the photo, feeling a pang of recognition, the power of memory, of love, and the lessons we pass forward. It reminded me why this fight, protecting seniors, was so vital. I peered at the photograph Maya had handed me and was struck by the unmistakable resemblance. That small, round face, the dark, expressive eyes, they mirrored Maya perfectly. Mrs. Vance, Maya whispered, her own eyes glistening with unshed tears. Do you know why I've been so determined to help you all this time? It's because you remind me of my grandmother. When she passed, my dad told me she was still holding a picture of my mother. My own tears began to fall. So this was the source of her boundless kindness, this little girl who had become like a daughter to me. Oh, you sweet child, I murmured, pulling her close. You silly child. We embraced, letting the connection of generations, the old and the new, fill the quiet room. That night, we talked late into the night. Maya recounted her fleeting memories of her mother, while I shared stories of raising David, the joys, the heartbreaks, the little moments of wonder. It was a bridge between our generations, a soft light in the darkness of past pain. Mrs. Vance, Maya asked hesitantly just before heading to bed, can I call you Mom? Just once. My heart warmed, an unfamiliar comfort filling me. I nodded. Mom, she said softly, her voice trembling, then quietly slipped into the guest room. That single word kept me awake, echoing like a promise. Life is strange, I thought. I had lost a son to his own mistakes, yet here I had found a devoted daughter. The following day, the Lakeview Realty verdict was announced. The owner received 12 years in prison. Samantha, as an accomplice, was sentenced to 5. When the sentence was read, she collapsed, her body supported by the bailiffs. I didn't stay to witness it. Instead, I went straight to the Alliance. Eleanor. You're just in time. Dr. Reed greeted me with excitement. The city approved our proposal. Next month, we'll launch a citywide anti-fraud campaign for seniors. It was thrilling news. We immediately plunged into preparations, designing brochures, coordinating media, training volunteers. Every task was exhausting yet deeply rewarding. During a lunch break, my phone rang. An unknown number. The voice on the line introduced himself as an officer at the state correctional facility. Miss Vance, Samantha Vance is requesting a meeting with you. She says it's important, about your son. I paused. After long hesitation, I agreed. The next day, I sat in a cold, sterile visiting room, separated by a glass partition. Samantha appeared in her orange jumpsuit, her face pale and drawn, yet the venom in her eyes had vanished. Mom, she began, tears spilling down her cheeks. I'm so sorry. I stayed silent, waiting for her to gather herself. I need to ask you a favor, she said finally. It's about Michael. My parents are too old to care for him properly, and David, he can't manage on his own. My heart clenched. You're asking me to take care of my grandson. Samantha nodded desperately. I know I have no right, but Michael is innocent. He cries for his grandma every day. I closed my eyes, picturing Michael's small, sweet face. No matter the adult's mistakes, the child deserved love and stability. I'll consider it, I said carefully. Anything, she breathed, clinging to hope. I looked directly into her eyes. Tell me the truth. How did it come to this? You and David, how did it all spiral out of control? Samantha swallowed hard. At first, I just wanted a better life. David's salary wasn't enough, and I liked expensive things. Then I met the owner of Lakeview. He promised an investment that was foolproof. Her words revealed a grim truth. From minor loans to full-scale real estate schemes, greed had dragged them into a swamp of deception. My home had been only one of many targets. Did David know it was illegal? I asked softly. Later, Samantha admitted. But by then, we were too deep. We owed so much to loan sharks. There was no way out. Leaving the prison, my heart felt like lead. David's life hung in the balance, and Michael, my sweet grandson, was caught in the middle. At home, I called David. The phone rang longer than usual before he answered, his voice tight. Mom. David, Samantha was sentenced to 5 years, I said gently. Silence. I know, he murmured, voice breaking. She asked me to ask you to care for Michael. I let the weight of the request settle before replying. Then bring him tomorrow. As for you, we'll talk another time. I sank onto the sofa, waiting for the flood of emotion to pass. When Maya arrived from work, she immediately noticed my somber expression. What's wrong, Mrs. Vance? I explained everything. To my surprise, she smiled warmly. The child needs you, she said. And this could be a chance to reconnect with David. I gave a weary smile. Some things aren't so easily forgiven. Just like you said in court, she countered gently. Forgive the personal harm, but let justice run its course. This is your first step. I ruffled her hair. You're relentless, you know that. The next day, David brought Michael over. 6 months had passed since I last saw him. He had grown taller, his face thin and pale. He hesitated at the doorway. Say hi to Grandma, David encouraged. Michael's shyness vanished in an instant. He ran into my arms, sobbing. Grandma. Where were you? Mommy and Daddy, and Grandpa, they're mean. I held him close. I'm here now, sweetheart. It's okay. David lingered nearby, silent, eyes red but respectful. I spent the afternoon reading picture books and playing with Michael, feeling as though time had turned back to when David had been that age. That evening, as David prepared to leave with Michael, the boy clung to me, sobbing. I want to stay with Grandma, he pleaded. I hugged him tightly. Tonight, yes. Bring your things tomorrow. David nodded, a silent gratitude in his eyes. He bowed slightly, murmuring, Mom. I am so sorry. I remained calm. Go. Be back early tomorrow. Closing the door, I held Michael, overwhelmed with emotion. Could this child become the bridge between me and David? Only time would tell. Before bed, I sent Maya a text. Can you help me buy a few things for Michael tomorrow? He's staying for a while. Her reply was instant. Of course, Mom. I'll go first thing in the morning. Reading that word, Mom, I smiled and set my phone aside. Life has a way of surprising us with hope when we least expect it. 3 days after Michael moved in, Maya essentially moved in too. She took the guest room, insisting it made caring for both Michael and me easier. You're getting older, she said, feeding Michael his dinner. Taking care of a child is exhausting. Besides, I was great with my little brother and sister. I watched her bustle about, smiling. With Michael here, the house felt alive again, filled with laughter, stories, and warmth. David came by every evening after work, bringing fruit or small gifts for Michael. He was quiet and reserved, a far cry from the self-absorbed man of the past. We silently focused on the child's well-being, avoiding the painful memories, choosing instead to nurture his growth. A month later, the Silver Sentinel Alliance officially launched Elder Rights Awareness Week. As vice president, I gave a speech filled with conviction. The elderly are not a burden on society, I told the crowd. We are treasures. We have the right to a dignified old age and the right to protect our property. Afterward, a woman on a cane approached me, tears in her eyes. Mrs. Vance, my son and daughter-in-law are pressuring me to sign over my house. They said if I don't, I'll never see my grandson. I patiently explained how to secure a deed, notarize a will, and gave her the Alliance helpline. Watching her determined steps as she left, I felt my resolve strengthen. During the week, we held dozens of workshops and consultations, reaching seniors from every corner of the city, ensuring they knew their rights and had the tools to protect themselves. The media coverage was overwhelming. Within weeks, Silver Sentinel had become a household name. Reporters flooded our phone lines, and city officials visited our booth, promising to push new legislation protecting seniors from fraud. Mrs. Vance, you're a celebrity now. Maya laughed one morning, holding up a newspaper that featured my photo on the front page. I smiled but shook my head. Fame doesn't matter, Maya. What counts is how many lives we've touched. And we had. In less than a year, we'd received hundreds of letters asking for help, more than 30 involving property disputes. The Alliance's volunteer legal team was exhausted, but every case we resolved felt like a small victory for justice. During those months, my relationship with David began to thaw. He started coming over to fix broken things around the house, a leaky faucet here, a door hinge there. Sometimes he'd take Michael to the park, and I'd watch from the window as they tossed a football back and forth, their laughter rising above the sound of rustling leaves. We didn't talk much, but the silence between us no longer felt hostile. It was tentative, like the first hint of spring after a long, bitter winter. One rainy afternoon, as I poured boiling water into the teapot, David suddenly asked, "Mom, do you hate me?" My hand trembled, spilling tea onto the counter. I turned to him, startled by the vulnerability in his voice. I did, I admitted quietly. But now, it's more like regret. He nodded slowly, his eyes downcast. I've been thinking a lot. I hurt you and Dad more than I ever realized. I'm sorry. I handed him a cup of tea instead of words. Sometimes forgiveness begins in silence. Mom, he said after a pause, I want to start over. I quit my job. A friend and I are opening a small grocery store. Honest work, steady income. That sounds like a good step, I said, cautiously hopeful. He hesitated. Would you, maybe lend me a little startup money? I'll sign a note. I'll pay every cent back. In the past, I would have reached for my checkbook before he finished the sentence. But life had taught me that love without boundaries isn't kindness, it's surrender. David, I said gently, if you truly believe in this business, take your plan to a bank. Let them see your commitment. Earn their trust. His face flushed, but he didn't argue. You're right. I'll try. As he left, I felt a sting of guilt, but I knew I was doing what a good parent should, teaching him to stand on his own. To my surprise, 2 weeks later, he came by with a grin I hadn't seen in years. Mom, I got the loan. The grand opening of Hart's Corner Market was modest but joyful. Maya, Michael, and I stopped by with flowers and balloons. The shelves gleamed with neatly stacked produce and household goods. Mom, look. David said proudly, pointing to a row of tea boxes. I made sure to stock your favorite jasmine blend. That small detail caught me off guard. My eyes filled with tears. After everything, he still remembered. On the way home, Maya smiled. Mrs. Vance, your son's a new man. I nodded, gazing out the window. Let's hope it lasts. Before long, it was time for Michael to start preschool. We enrolled him at the neighborhood public school. On the first day, he clung to my leg, tears streaming down his cheeks. "Grandma, don't go." "Michael, be brave," I said, kneeling to wipe his face. "You'll make lots of friends here. And I'll be right here this afternoon to pick you up." After some coaxing, the teacher finally led him into the classroom. Maya and I stood by the window, watching until he started building with blocks beside another boy. "Mrs. Vance," Maya whispered, "you're such a wonderful grandmother." I smiled softly. "I'm just doing what any grandmother would." The house felt strangely quiet when I returned home. I was tidying Michael's toys when the doorbell rang. A delivery man stood there with a rectangular package. Inside was a beautifully framed portrait of Michael, painted with breathtaking accuracy. A small card was attached. "To the best grandma. Forever your loving Michael. P.S. Dad helped me pick this out." My tears fell before I could stop them. It became my most treasured piece of decor, hanging right above the mantel. That afternoon, when I picked Michael up, he ran to me waving a crayon drawing. "Teacher said mine was the best," he beamed. The word grandma was scrawled across the top in bright colors. "You're amazing, sweetheart," I said, kissing his cheek. Life settled into a calm, beautiful rhythm after that. The alliance continued to grow, Michael thrived, David worked hard at his store, and Maya remained my loyal companion. Sometimes letters came from Samantha in prison, always asking about Michael. I never ignored them. Whatever her mistakes, she was still his mother. I sent her updates and photos, hoping it gave her some peace. A year later, Silver Sentinel celebrated its first anniversary. We rented a community hall filled with laughter and familiar faces. Dr. Lydia Reed, our chairperson, took the stage with tears in her eyes. "Our Home Guard project has just been awarded the State Medal for Public Service," she announced. "This honor belongs to all of us, but especially to our Vice President, Mrs. Eleanor Vance. Her courage has changed lives." As applause thundered, I looked out over the crowd, seniors we had protected, families we had reunited, volunteers who had become like family. My heart swelled with gratitude. After the ceremony, I took Michael and Maya to David's store. He had closed early to cook dinner for us. The smell of roasted chicken filled the cozy kitchen. "Mom," he said, raising a glass of sparkling cider, "congratulations. You've built something incredible." Michael lifted his cup of milk. "Cheers to Grandma." Four glasses clinked together, and for the first time in years, I felt whole. That night, after putting Michael to bed, I stood on the balcony, holding a framed photo of Robert. The night air was cool, the garden below bathed in moonlight. "Robert," I whispered, "I'm doing just fine. You can rest easy." A soft breeze stirred the jasmine blossoms, their scent wrapping around me like an embrace. And I knew, it was his way of saying he'd heard me.